When using an interactive whiteboard with my class, when I'm preparing my lessons, what I like to do is prepare about 70% of the lesson in advance, and then the other 30% would be the interaction at the time that I'm using it with my class. So it might be me talking about it, revealing information on the page, or getting my class to come up and interact with it themselves. So this page here, what we're looking at is a thinking skill strategy called Diamond 9. So I have a whole bunch of statements and there's no right or wrong answer, but I want to get an idea of my class on how they feel about a particular topic. So in this case, I want to know what they feel is the most important or the least important things that are needed for a healthy lifestyle. So I've got a nice image here behind the page, and I've created my Diamond 9 just using shapes from my shape library over here. And what I've also done is I've used the camera tool to just take a snapshot of my picture background and then place it on top here to make this little object on my page. And then I've locked that object just by selecting it and locking it there. Behind that, I have lots of little cards here that have statements. So what I could then do is drag that out. As a class, we could talk about where we felt that belonged on our card and then place it where we wanted to go before we pick our next one. Okay, so we would start to work through all of these statements, moving things around as appropriate. As the discussion changes, maybe some of the cards change as well. So as I said, once again, it's keeping that pace of that lesson going because I have all the information that I want, but I can pull it out and reveal it slowly to my class when I want them to see it. This is another variation of that same idea of layering. So having a shape or having an object that's locked onto the page so that I can drag things from behind it. In this case, though, I'm not going to drag things from behind it. I'm going to drag things into it, or better yet, I'm going to have my learners come up and drag things into it. So we're looking at insects. We've gone through the definition of insects. So we know that not all of the images on this page would actually fit into that category. And what I want to do is get my learners to come up and drag the objects to that box to see if they are an insect or not. So the way this page has been set up is that if it is not an insect, it won't go into the box. And if it is an insect, it will go into the box. Okay, so my class will start to drag. Oh, that's an insect, goes into the box. What about a spider? It's not. So if a spider isn't an insect, what is it? So we could have a great conversation going on about that. The way this is made is just taking an object from the resource library. In this case, it was a box. And I actually think that I took this from Danny Nicholson, who does a fantastic blog called the Whiteboard Blog. And I do recommend, if you've not seen it, to have a look here because he's got some really great ideas of not only whiteboard technology, but lots of other technology and its uses within the classroom. He does some really great evaluations of things. So he had a little clip art object that he took and brought onto his flip chart page. And then what he's done to make this effect of being able to drag things into the box or having them not go into the box is, if I go into design mode, you can see that he's actually used the camera tool to take a snapshot of the front of that box and then just placed it back on top so that it still looks like one object. So that was as simple as going into the tools, selecting the camera tool, and then the easiest way is just a freehand or a point-to-point. I like to use a point-to-point. Move that out of the way. I could then draw point-to-point, select that front of that box. Okay, finish it up, paste it to the current page, and you can see that I now have that there that I could paste that on. And I might want to just resize it a little bit so it fits on a little bit more. Okay. That object is then locked onto the page, as is the box in the background. So both of these would be locked to the page, remembering just selecting it and going into the locked. I would then just need to make sure that any objects that are insects would be on a layer lower than this image of the box that I took here. So I can check that very quickly in my in my object browser over here. So you can see I've set that up very clearly. So my main image is my box, and then I also have all my other images you can see here. So when I select them, you can see which ones I'm talking about. So I've got my main box is the big one in the back, and then I've got that little snapshot I took here. I've actually moved it to the top layer and just left it at the bottom of the top layer. If it's an object that is not an insect, I've put it on the top layer above my snapshot, and if it is an insect, I've left it on the middle layer. Oh, let's get rid of that one. I've left it on the middle layer so that when I drag it, it goes behind that object here, that snapshot there. That insect goes behind, so it looks like I'm putting that in the box.